These are two fake phones. One of the Galaxy S7 and one of the Huawei P9 Plus. On the outside, they look pretty convincing, but the question is, should you buy one? Now, from the outside, these phones look really good. They look just like the phones they're copying, which are very attractive phones, so it would make sense that these phones would be themselves very attractive. However, immediately there are some issues with their build quality. Let's start with the Galaxy S7, because the actual Galaxy S7 is a masterpiece of design. You've got glass on the front, glass on the back, and aluminum on the sides. However, this is not that. This is plastic on the front, plastic on the back, and plastic on the sides. That's right, these are not aluminum. They're very obviously plastic. The back, that's not glass, that's totally plastic. And it doesn't even have a design or anything. It's literally just a piece of black plastic. So that is a bit of a letdown. And these antenna bands, they're painted on. You could scratch them off with your finger. So you can see there are some quality issues. And they continue when we go onto the front and we look at what they say is a fingerprint scanner. It's not. You can register your finger with this, but it's basically a capacitive button and it'll work with literally any finger. It'll work with your nose, your elbow, your knee, your toe, anything will unlock this. The camera, I mean, it's not awful, but it's certainly not the same level of quality that you can expect with the real deal. Over to the P9 Plus, this build quality is actually remarkably good. So I guess that $10 extra gets you some better build quality. We have what feels like, I'm not sure if it is, but feels like a glass front. It has a slight curve to it, which is nice. We have a still plastic back, but they've pulled it off very nicely. It looks pretty high quality. It's not as cheap feeling, and it does have what looks like a brushed aluminum look to it. On the sides, we find some real aluminum that appears to be chamfered aluminum, and this feels really good. Holding it in your hand, you can really feel the aluminum, and it feels great. Now, let's talk about the screens, because both of these have pretty low resolution screens. They're both advertised as Quad HD, but aren't at all. This one even comes with this weird gold theme that I'm not really sure how to explain. But that being said, they're both pretty snappy. I haven't noticed much lag, and in playing certain games, they work very well. One thing that I've been trying to figure out is how much storage is on these phones, because they both tell you that they have 32 gigabytes on them. However, this phone has no apps installed on it, and it says that I've used 92% of the storage. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think Android and its apps that come pre-installed take up 92% of 32 gigabytes. That seems a bit ridiculous. Now, this phone is a bit more interesting because it tells me I still have 17 gigabytes, and I don't know, I've installed a couple of apps on this and they seem to be taking up an appropriate amount for a 32 gigabyte phone. Now, I don't think it's actually 32 gigabytes, but it certainly seems to be more than the S7, so that's good. Now, neither of these phones are without their quirks. The Galaxy S7 claims to be running Android 6.0, but it is absolutely not. This thing is running Android 5 with an Android 6 skin. The P9 Plus doesn't try to lie to you. It's running Android 5 with this weird theme, which, I don't know, you can change it. There's a bunch of themes pre-installed, but I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. Now, the quirky part that I really needed to show you guys is you'll notice when we hold on the home screen to move apps around and whatnot, there's a little setting down here called Magic Finger. Now, you can see we have several options for the Magic Finger. We have No, that's an option. We have Dream Bubbles, Rustling Leaves, and Eyebrow Mode. Now, eyebrow mode, not sure why they call it that, because when you swipe around on the screen, little hearts show up. I'm not kidding. That is eyebrow mode right there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure what that has to do with literally anything ever in the history of anything. But apparently, eyebrow mode. Realistically, you could use both of these phones as actual smartphones. Keep in mind, though, that neither of them have LTE, no matter how many times they tell you they do. These are GSM phones, which means they'll only work on T-Mobile or Sprint or AT&T. You cannot use a Verizon SIM with these guys, but you could theoretically just take the T-Mobile or Sprint or whatever SIM card out of your current phone, plop it in one of these, keep in mind nano SIM, and you'd be able to use these on the cellular network. And if you want to increase their storage with a micro SD card, you could theoretically use these as legitimate Android smartphones. And, you know, I think you could easily get away with that. Although keep in mind that these are not anywhere near as powerful as the phones that they claim to be. Both of them have a dual core. This one says it has an octa-core, which is just ridiculous. It's a dual core, fairly low clock speed, 512 megs of RAM in each of them, 5 megapixel cameras. They're kind of like the regular phones scaled down on a really cheap level. But keep in mind that these are less than a fifth of the price of the actual devices. So if you're looking for a second phone, or you just want to switch it up from your regular device and try out one of these, you could easily fool people into thinking that you have this phone for real, even though it's a cheap fake. Although, I don't think it's really worth fooling people into thinking that you have an expensive phone, because you yourself are going to know that your phone is cheap and crappy. So that's all for today's video. As usual, guys, make sure to follow me on Twitter @LukeMiani, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a like down below to support my content. I will see you guys next week.